It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.
Hello everybody, welcome to this live lesson on figurative language. Just before we begin, I would just like to share this screen with everybody and let you know that before we start today, you're going to need a few things. So just while I show this to you, and you just write down the title here, if you don't mind, in your books, you're going to need a book, you're going to need a ruler, you're going to need a pencil, and if you have any colored pencils, that would also be amazing. So the title is on the screen, Using Figurative Language to Improve Our Writing. Okay. So explain what's going to be happening today before we begin. We're actually going to be working on a series of activities together as a group and as a class, and I'll ask you to work in your partners and your pairs. There'll be lots of conversations that will be happening today, which you'll need to take heed of, because what we'll need from you is a little bit of work. So we're going to work on writing, we're going to work on reading, and we're going to work on improving the way we use our language so that we can improve the way that we write, thinking about how our students also write their stories and who is the recipient of our texts. So if you're going to write a story, how good is it for the person who is actually reading the story that you have written, which is really, really, really important. Okay, so just before we begin, there's a few things you're going to need to know. Sometimes I'll be talking to you like this. Sometimes you'll see my hands like this, and I'll be writing something down on a piece of paper, just like this. When I write something, I'll also be expecting you to write something too. So you'll need your pencils and your paper handy. And also, maybe sometimes what I will be doing is I will be flicking to a screen that looks something like this, where you'll be able to read something. Okay, so let's get started with today's class, if we may. It'll take about an hour's time. It's going to be fun. I've got a quiz for you to do today as well, and you're going to have to work in your groups to be able to do that. So, first things first, in our books, let's use our ruler and let's put a title, if we don't mind. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to write the title, and today we're going to be focusing on similes. And for those of you who don't know what similes are, do not worry. I'll explain more about that later on. Let's put the title at the top of our page. I'll do it nice and big for you. Just like this. So I've used a ruler to keep it nice and neat. And today we're going to learn about two things. We're going to learn about similes, and we're also going to learn about superlatives. And for those people who don't know what superlatives are, you soon will do. Okay, so let's get started. Oh, I'm finding that my video is the wrong way around. Apologies, everybody. Let's fix that for you. There we go. That's better. Okay, now you can read that. Sorry, I gave you a bit of a trick there to try to write it the wrong way around. Okay, so let's get started. Now, similes. I'm going to give you two key words today, and we're going to define these two. So the first thing we're going to do is similes, and the second thing we're going to do is superlatives. So let's find out what similes are, first of all. So we'll just define it, if we may, at the top. I'm just going to write down similes again, and I want you to do the same in your books too. Just to let you know, while you're doing that, today we have 133 schools all together in this meeting, all talking to each other, all working together. This is truly a global event. It's very, very cool to have everybody here, and I'm so happy that you've turned up. So similes. Well, what are similes? And I guess, how do we use them to make our writing better? That's a very good question. Well, let's have a look at this definition of what a simile actually is. So a simile, let's go to this screen here, is this. It's a description involving a comparison of one thing with another. Now, so to make it really simple for you in your books, so a simile is when we compare one thing to another, and I'll give you an example in just a second. But before I do, let's go back and have a look at the definition. So let's write down what a simile is, and I'm going to make it really simple so I can remember it. So that I'm going to put down here to compare. And that will help me to understand and remember actually what it is that I'm talking about, to compare. Now, a simile helps us with our writing because it paints an amazing picture in the reader's mind. Here are some examples of what a simile may actually look like in a story. Let's go and have a look what a simile looks like. So here are some examples of a simile. And you might want to write these down in your book. You can if you want. I'm just going to read them out to you. And obviously the part in green is the simile. And this is where we're going to have a little bit of a quiz in just a second. So first of all, it says, I just love my new blanket. It is as soft as velvet. Now, the reason I've used as soft as velvet is because when the person is reading my book, I want them to feel how soft my blanket is. So in order to do that, I'm going to tell them that it's as soft as one of the softest things around. And for any of you out there who know how soft velvet is, it is very, very soft indeed. Okay. Number two, and you might want to write this down. You don't have to if you don't want. Number two, my grandmother's mind is as sharp as a razor. Why did I use as sharp as a razor? Because a razor is one of the sharpest things around. And my grandma's mind is really, she remembers everything. She forgets nothing. It is extremely sharp. I've told the reader how sharp she is. Number three, the clothes she wore were as white as snow. Why did I use as white as snow? Because there are many different types of white. But when something is as white as snow, it is the whitest thing around. So this is how I would use similes, and this is how I would use them in my text. And the reason I use them is because it paints an amazing picture in the children's mind, in your reader's mind. Whoever's reading your story, it paints an amazing picture in their mind. And also what it does is it allows them to imagine what it would feel like if they were actually in that setting. Okay, so now we've covered similes, and don't worry, you can write these down a little bit later. There's plenty more of these coming up. Now we've covered similes, let's go to our second keyword for the day. So we're looking at similes today, and the second thing we're going to look at actually is called a superlative. You may not have heard of a superlative before. Let me help you with that. So here we go. S-U-P, super, L-A-T-I-V-E, a superlative. Now, for those people who do not know what a superlative is, let me help you. Well, a superlative is what we use when we want to talk about the maximum, the biggest, the fastest. We use a superlative, and that really helps us with our definitions. So let's just go to a definition of that so you can understand what it actually means. A superlative, here it is. It's the maximum that something can be. Now, in my book, in my definitions, I'm actually going to go back to my book and I'm going to write down just next to it to give me a reminder, the maximum. You can do that too. Just like that. The maximum. Then what I would like you to do, once you've done that, you just underneath take a ruler and just rule a line just like this. And then I'm going to explain to you what a superlative is. Okay. So you've got that down in your book. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, let's go and have a look what a superlative actually is and explain it to you. Okay, so let's go to a superlative. Here we go. You've probably heard of these before. You just didn't know that they were superlatives, and they help us a great deal with our writing. So he is the tallest boy in the class. Green word is tallest, and that is the superlative. It means you cannot get taller than the tallest. There's no taller. There's nothing taller than the tallest, and this is the superlative. It means the maximum level. Number two, Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system. You can't get bigger than the biggest. And number three, Delhi is the busiest city in the world. You cannot get busier than the busiest. And this is what a superlative is. So we've learned two new words at this moment. We've learned similes and we've learned superlatives. And I guess the question is, how can these help us when we are writing? How can we use these in our writing? Well, we're going to have a little bit of a quiz now. And I'm going to give you a quiz. And in that quiz, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm actually going to ask you 7 questions at the very beginning. And I'm going to ask you to work with your partner on your table. I'm going to give you a countdown timer. You guessed, in this section, you have to read my mind. You see, I've written down some similes. I've written down 7, but I haven't given you the answer. But I'm going to give you a clue. The answer to my questions is a superlative. So I'm going to give you some sentences in just a second. And then what I want you to do on your table, and I'll give you 5 minutes, and I'll put a clock on the screen so you can see that. I'll give you 5 minutes, and in those 5 minutes, what I would like you to do is write down the simile that I'm about to give you and try your hardest with the people on your table, in your group, with your partner, or even on your own if you're working on your own. Try to estimate, what do you think the missing word is? Try to get inside my head and read my mind if you can. There's going to be 14 questions, and at the very end, I will reveal all the answers. So what you'll need to do in your book is this. Just put down number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, number 5, a number 6, and a number 7. And next to those numbers in a second, you're going to try to write down what was the simile that was in my mind. Okay, are we ready for the quiz? Now, this is all about communication. So talk to the person next to you, have a conversation with the people on your table. If you don't agree, try to negotiate and compromise. What do you think the right answer might be? See what you think, read the sentences, and then make an estimation to see which one you think is correct. Okay, let's go. You have 5 minutes on the clock to have a look at this. Off you go. You've had about a minute and a half. While you're doing that, I will just read through them for you. So, in case you can't read them. She loved visiting the lake high up in the mountains, whose water was as clear as what? What I have in my mind there. Number 2, her voice is as smooth as, what is the smoothest thing around? Number 3, it's no use trying to change his mind. That man is as stubborn as something. What is the most stubborn thing around? Number 4, he knew something was wrong when he found his friend shaking like a something. What shakes a lot? What shakes the most? Number 5, this shawl is made from the fine material. It's as light as a something. What is one of the lightest things around? Number 6, her grandmother's chocolate cake was as sweet as, what is the sweetest thing that you can think of? And number 7, you can trust him. He's as straight as an something. What is one of the straightest objects you can possibly imagine? It has to be straight for a very important reason. You've got about 2 minutes left on the clock to answer all 7 of those questions in your book. Remember, have a discussion on your table, a discussion in your team, have a think about it with the people around you, and try to agree on some answers. Okay, you've got about 50 seconds left, guys. Let's continue. So write those down in your books. All right. 20 seconds remaining, guys. Doing an amazing job. Well done. And don't forget, at the very end, we're going to go through all 14 of these and see how well you did at reading my mind and see how well we've done. And you've got 10 seconds remaining on your table. Your group, remember, this is about communication, compromise. You might not agree with the people around you. Okay, and let's stop ourselves there. Okay, well done, everybody. This is great. So now, guys, what we're going to do, we're going to head back to our book. I'm going to ask you to turn to a new page if you can, like this. This part is going to be really fun. Now, what I'd like you to do, and I want you to use a ruler, although I'm not going to be using a ruler for all of mine, because I want to do mine very quickly, is I actually want you to draw 6 boxes in your book. And you can take up a whole page like this. I'm going to do mine a bit like this, and you can just have a look at mine before you start. So I'm going to draw 6 squares in my book, just like this, on top of each other, just like this. If you can do the same, that would be wonderful. So there's 2. So grab your rulers, grab your pencils, off you go. I'm going to take up a whole page for these guys, just like so. Now, all of you are becoming writers. You're becoming authors. You're starting to get better at writing, which is wonderful. But before we can be a writer, we have to be able to imagine the story in our mind. And what we're going to do now is a visualization of that. So have a quick look this way. Just like so. Okay, so here we go. Got our 6 boxes. Now, I'll give you a minute, don't worry, to do this, because I know you might be a bit slower than me. So I've got 6 boxes just like that in my book. If you can do that now, that would be amazing. I'm just actually going to put a number next to each of these so I know what order they're coming in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, before you can become a writer, before you actually start writing a story, and many of us have written stories before, and quite often what we do is we just start writing. We say, I'm going to write a story, off we go, I'm just going to write a story, let's do this and write a story. But the problem with that is we haven't imagined the whole thing in our head before we begin. And there's lots to think about when writing a story. And today what we're going to do is we're going to do something called a visualization. So we're going to imagine a story. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story, or I'm going to show you a story. And what I want you to do, every time I say stop, and I stop the story, you're going to try to draw what happened in this box here very simply. And later on you can color this in, but we won't worry about this too much right now. Okay, are we ready? Well, let me give you another minute. I'll give you 60 more seconds to put those boxes in your book if you can. If you haven't got a ruler, don't worry, just draw them as they are. That's completely fine. Don't make them too small because you're going to need to draw inside them. In a second, you will be needing a pencil because you're going to be drawing something inside here. We're going to get a little bit creative. So I'll just give you another 30 seconds to keep up with me here if you don't mind. And I'm going to introduce you to 3 amazing characters in just a second. Okay, now I just want to say while you're doing that, just to let you all know out there in the world, we have people tuning in today from Africa, from Asia, from Europe, from North America, South America, from Australia, Indonesia, Mongolia, Tanzania, Madagascar, from Romania, Estonia. We've got people all over the world today. And together, we are all learning. This is amazing. This is truly amazing. So happy you're all here. Okay, now, I'm assuming you've got the 6 boxes in your book now. If you don't worry, if you don't have them, don't stress too much. Let me introduce you to my characters. Here we go. I'm just going to move something up here to set a bit of a scene. Now you have to imagine that this that I'm looking at right here is a nice hilly grass side. And I'm going to introduce you to 3 characters in just a second. Now this is a really good idea when you're writing a story, is before you even start writing, you do a visualization. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you a story now. And I'm actually going to just say it to you, and you don't need to worry about writing anything. Today is just about drawing something. I'm going to introduce you to this person here. This is William the Wizard. This is William the Wizard. I'm going to actually write his name down for you, just in case you don't know how to spell it. This is William. Now you have to listen to this next part. This is William the Wizard. Now, William the Wizard traveled from outer space. On the planet that he'd come from, they had run out of water. His planet was called Zorgon, and I'm going to write it for you right here. He'd come from Zorgon, and he traveled through space on his rocket ship all the way to Earth looking for water, because on his planet, it had become too warm. You see, the people on William's planet had cut down all of the trees. All the trees were gone. They cut them down for wood. They were using them to build tables and houses. Some people were even burning them. Terrible. And they ran out of trees, and his planet Zorgon became really hot. Now, William, the wizard, he flew all the way to Earth because he knew we had lots of water. Okay, and that is the first part of my story. That's part number one. What I'd like you to do in your book over here in this box is try, if you can, to draw me in a picture what I just told you. I'll try too, and you go as well. We'll do it in a minute. We'll try it in 60 seconds. Off you go. You don't need to copy mine, but I'm going to try. So I'm going to draw Zorgon. This is a planet in the solar system very far away. This is Earth down here. This is William the Wizard standing on Earth, just like this with his big pointy hat. His hands are here. This is planet Earth. I'm also going to put a big arrow. Whoosh. This is his rocket ship. He's traveled all the way to Earth. I'm just going to visualize it. It doesn't have to be neat. It doesn't have to be too detailed. I just want to remember what happened in the first part of my story. So William the Wizard traveled from Zorgon, this planet here, to Earth looking for water because his planet had run out of water. That's number one. I'll give you 10 more seconds to try to draw that in your own words. Sorry, in your own thoughts, not words. You don't need to write anything at this point. Okay, let's go to the second part of this story. I'm just going to move my book out of the way. That was part number one. Let's go to part number two. William the Wizard found that there was so much water on Earth that he decided he was going to take some back to his own planet. But the problem was that he'd forgotten where he'd put his rocket ship. Here is his rocket ship. His rocket ship was very far away, and William the Wizard simply couldn't spot it because there were some things in the way. There was a very big mountain blocking his view. And here's the mountain. Poor old William. So let's go to number two in your book. Go back to your book, grab number two. What did I tell you in the second part of the story? Well, I'm just going to draw. This is Earth. I'm going to put Zorgon in the distance still, because that's where it's come from. Huge mountain here on one side. I'll put some snow on it. I'm going to put William on this side, William the Wizard, just like so, like this. And I'm going to draw his rocket ship on this side, just like that. Oh no, William's having a terrible time, isn't he? I'll just give you 30 seconds to try to draw yours. Now, you might be thinking, why am I doing this? Well, this is a really good thing to do before you even start writing. It's called a visualization, and all good writers, even J.K. Rowling, when she wrote Harry Potter, she did something very similar to this. Let's continue. Okay. Now, let's go. This is section number 3. William the Wizard was feeling really, really worried. He thought he would never make it back to Zorgon. He was going to be lost on planet Earth forever. But then, out of nowhere, an unexpected friend turned up. And here he is. This is Christopher the Crab. And I'm going to write down his name for you, right, so you can see it. This is Christopher the Crab. Wow, isn't he cute? Christopher the Crab turned up out of nowhere. This is amazing. Now we are into section number 3. So let's go back to our visualization of our books. Number 3. This is a really interesting part. So I'm going to draw my landscape again. I'm going to draw the wizard with his hat, but this time I'm going to draw a bit closer, like this. I'm going to put his big beard. I'm going to put his big cloak like this, and maybe I'll put a cape on him. Some hands, and his shoes are poking out. And this time I'm going to draw Christopher the crab with his big eyes on top like this. Just like this. In the distance, I'm going to draw Zorgon, because I know that he wants to get home. This is section number 3. Oh, this story is actually sounding really good. I'm really enjoying my own story. Hope you're enjoying it too. And the reason I'm showing you this is because the next time you are going to write a story, I don't want you to just start writing, because I don't want you to do that, because you might make a mistake. I want you to do this, a visualization. 6 boxes in your book, and before you even start, you're going to do something similar to this. Let's go back to my story and see what is going to happen next. William the Wizard said to Christopher the Crab, "Hello, I wonder if you can help me. I've traveled all the way from outer space and I'm looking for water. I was hoping to take a bit of your water and fly all the way back home to go to my planet, but I cannot find my rocket ship." Now the crab turned to him and said, "Well, I know where your rocket ship is, and I will help you under one condition." Dum, dum, dum. Let's go. Box number 4. Christopher the Crab told him he would help him. This time, I'm going to draw Christopher the Crab zoomed in, like this, because he's being a little bit cunning here. He's being a little bit sneaky. He's saying, I will help you, but I want something in return. I don't think Christopher the Crab is being a very nice person at this point. Poor old William the Wizard's lost in outer space, and Christopher the Crab said, I'll help you, but I want something in return. I don't think that was very nice. That's box number 4. Hopefully you filled in box number 4 too. Let's go to the next part of the story. William the Wizard and Christopher the Crab had a conversation. And William the Wizard said, okay, I will help you if you tell me where my rocket is first. Christopher said, I cannot tell you where it is first. You have to promise me that you are going to do what I say. So William the Wizard obviously had no choice. He said, okay, I will do it. You say, what is it that you need? And Christopher the Crab said, look, I will tell you where your rocket is if you turn me with your magic wand into a prince. I've always wanted to be a prince, a big, handsome, tall prince with a castle and a princess on a huge golden beard. The wizard said, no problem. I will turn you into anything you want if you tell me where my rocket ship is. Aha! Let's go to box number 5. This is getting really exciting. What is actually going to happen here? So, box number 5, I'm visualizing this. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to draw Christopher the Crab like this, with his legs again, and his pincers like this. Remember, it doesn't have to be really neat. And I'm going to draw some kind of dreamy bubbles. He's having a daydream. And in his daydream, he's dreaming of becoming a prince. And in order to show that, I'm just going to draw myself a castle like this. Huge castle with a big door like that, to show everybody that he wants to become a prince. Aha, yes, he's feeling very happy. I'm putting a smiley face on him. Isn't this an exciting story? I'm starting to visualize it. Now, this is what we call the complication here. It's getting complicated here. He's saying, I will help you, but I will only help you if you help me turn me into a prince. And he promised him that he would definitely do that. Let's see if he actually happens. Okay, back to the story. Now, this is the part of the story where things obviously normally get very exciting, but this is a children's picture book. So it's not going to get too exciting, but we want to have something surprising. We want to surprise the audience. We don't want him to turn into a prince. That would be too easy to finish off. We don't want that to happen. So the crab said to William the Wizard, okay, I'm going to show you where your rocket is. It's just over there behind those mountains. So the wizard and the crab walked over. Pop, pop, pop. Imagine walking over the mountains. Ah! And they found the rocket ship safe and sound on the other side of the mountains. The wizard turned to the crab and he said, thank you so much for helping me find my rocket ship. You are very kind. But, he said, you could have helped me without making me do something for you. You could have been kind just because being kind is really good, and you didn't. And now I have decided that I'm not going to turn you into a prince at all. In fact, I'm going to leave, and I'm leaving you with nothing. If you had have shown me where the rocket was without blackmailing me, I would have given you everything I want. But now I'm going to leave and leave you with zero. The wizard climbed into the rocket and he zoomed away into the sky, leaving poor old Christopher the Crab all alone with nothing to do and definitely not looking like a prince. Box number 6. Poor old lonely Christopher the Crab on his own with nothing, looking sad. And in the distance, the rocket ship flying off with William the Wizard on board, just like this. If you can draw that too. Now you might think, Gavin, your story was a bit boring. And you are right. My story was a bit boring, actually, because I'm not a child like you. You are so creative. You're the one with the amazing imagination. So what we want you to do, we want you to come up with your own story. You don't need to use William or Christopher the Crab, but what you do need to do is have a very valuable lesson. Now, the lesson in this story, the one that we've just seen here, was this, is that kindness, and you might want to write this down, is the greatest gift. And this was the message in my story. And the reason I'm telling you that is every good story has an amazing message. So even though my story was a little bit boring, and you're quite right, because I'm not you, you can write a way better story than me. The message was really, really important. Okay, well done, everyone. And the reason I'm showing that to you is because the next time you're writing a story, what I really, really want you to do is I want you to think about visualization. So if you're going to write a story about a sausage dog that moves to Jupiter and takes over the entire planet, then that is totally fine. And I completely applaud you. But make sure you do, before you start, make sure that you do a visualization before you begin. Okay. You're doing really well, everyone, by the way. You're concentrating really hard. I can see you all working so well. Let's go. New page. In our book, we're going to go to the second part of our quiz, Guess My Simile. This time, we're going to put number 8, number 9, number 10, number 11, number 12, number 13, and number 14. Off you go. Let's pop those down in your book. Put your thumbs up when you have completed it so I can see that you are ready. Give me a big thumbs up like this, and I'll know when you're ready. We're just writing the numbers down. Okay. So it's time for round 2. And then at the very end, we're going to read through all of these answers together. So here we go. Remember, you're going to read it. You're going to read these with your partner, read them with your group, read them on your table, read the sentences. Try your best to get inside my mind, read my mind, and guess the simile. Remember, it's a superlative usually, and a superlative, as you know, as you all know, the superlative is the maximum. The tallest, the fastest, the bravest, the quickest, the smallest, the thinnest. It is the maximum. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, are you ready? Here we go. Let's go with round 2. I will read them out. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock for you. And let's begin. So let me just go through them with you while you're doing that. Now, you can write them down if you want, or you can just write down the simile if you wish. So guess my simile. The baby bird took his first flight. He was as brave as, how brave was he? What is, do you think, the bravest thing? The bravest thing around. It's a one-worder. The bravest thing. It was as brave as what? I know something very brave out there. Okay, number 2. Don't trust his words. He is cunning like a cunning. Now, cunning means not always telling the truth, sometimes trying to do the wrong thing on purpose, very sneakily. What kind of thing is cunning out there? And I'll give you a clue. That one is an animal. Number 3, the expression on her face was as cold as. What is the coldest thing that you know? The coldest thing you can think of. So you go to the principal's office and she's very upset with you because you've been very naughty, and you look at her face, the expression on her face was as cold as what? Number 4, my wife is as busy as a something in the morning. What is the busiest thing you know? What's the busiest thing, running around, doing all the things, doing, or running around, busy, busy, busy. What is the busiest thing you can think of? Number 5, the teacher's face was red like something. Oh, so your teacher's really angry, getting very upset. He's spilled a whole cup of coffee over his trousers, brand new trousers, very upset. The teacher's face was red like a something. What is really, really red in the world? What is that? Okay, and the last one. The burglar was quiet like a something. The burglar is sneaking into the museum to steal the Queen's crown. The burglar was quiet like a something. What is the quietest thing that you can think of? Quiet like a something. You have 2 more minutes with the people on your table to discuss those, have a think about them, have a conversation, try to come to an agreement. Let's see. And at the very end, we're going to go through all the answers and we'll see how well you did. You're doing really well, everybody, by the way. Really well. Just another minute and a half left. Just another 50 seconds with the people on your team. Remember this, I'm using superlatives, which are the maximum. What is the most cunning thing, the bravest thing, the coldest thing, the busiest thing, the reddest thing, and the quietest thing? Okay, now I've got about another 15 minutes left, and we're going to finish with a story together. We're going to have a look at a story. We're going to read it together, and we're going to have a look at some of the things in that story to help you when you're writing your book. And then what we're going to do, we're going to finish with the answers to the quiz. And then I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to say thank you to you for tuning in. It's been so fun to hang out together like this. Okay, so just 10 seconds left on the clock. And then we'll ask you to look this way and finish your conversations with your partners. All right, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now, just before we begin the next section of this, you're all on the course, which is write a book to change the world, and you're working really, really hard. So I'm really proud of you. And obviously, we're now into about week 3 or week 4, and you've all started to think of your characters. You've got your setting. You know what your moral is. You started to write your manuscript this week, and next week you're actually going to be illustrating your book, and you're going to start putting the pictures together. And this is where it gets really, really interesting, because you get to be extremely creative, extremely creative. But I will say this to you, This is the most important thing I can ever say to you, is you've worked really hard. And it can get a bit tricky sometimes. You can think, oh, this writing a book thing is hard. And illustrating all these pages is going to take me time. And it will. It will take a bit of time. But I don't want you to give up. I want you to finish it. And when you get to the end of your story, I want you to publish it. And I want you to be a published author. And I want you to walk around really proud. When people say to you, hey, what do? You say, I'm an author. I write books. I'm an illustrator. I publish books. That's what I do. I want you to be proud of that. And I don't want you to give up. So keep going, and I'll be here every week to work with you to help you out with that. So let's continue. Now I'm going to read you a book just here. And this book is about an elephant. It's called Where's My Memory? So let's have a look what happens inside. And this is what your book will look like. When you finish your book, it's going to look just like this. Can you imagine when your book arrives in school and you have written your own book? It's going to be amazing. Really, it's going to be amazing. Okay, Where's My Memory? It's about an elephant. Let's get started. Here we go. I'll let you know my book is in Africa, just so you know. It was a hot day in the desert. Bernard and his family walked slowly in their search for water. Bernard found shelter under an anna tree. Maya and the others wanted to keep looking for water, but Bernard couldn't walk anymore. He was hungry and the leaves were too high to reach. Here's a quick tip for you. Anybody who's writing their book right now on the Write the Book course, you see this little bird up here, this blue bird? I put a little blue bird on every page. You might want to do the same thing, not a bird, but something else, because little children, really little children who can't read the words, they just go, bird. Every time they see the bird, they go, bird, like this. So you might want to include that. After several hours, Maya urged the group to keep walking. She knew that water was not far away, but Bernard didn't move. He was too old and weak to go on. The memory of elephants waited patiently for him, but I'm afraid to tell everybody it was no use. They waited, and they waited, and they waited. Bernard could see his family were thirsty. Go ahead, he said. I will catch you up. I just need a few more minutes to rest. Maya led the group away, and she was trying to hold back her tears. Oh no, she was crying. Can't believe she was crying. By the way, just to let everybody know out there, elephants cry when they feel sad. That's very sad. The night surrounded Bernard. He lay on the ground and he closed his eyes. The next morning, the warm sun rose behind the hills and the thick fog filled the valley. By now, his family were far away in a watering hole. Maya and the others listened for Bernard, but the desert was still and quiet. Bernard lay under the tree, lonely and weak. And this is where things get exciting. And you need to include this in your story too, where it looks really sad. The beginning of the story is so sad. Oh my goodness, poor Bernard, he can't walk. He's so tired. Will he make it? Suddenly, and that's a really good word to use, by the way. Suddenly, he heard leaves rustling. And with his last bit of strength, he looked up. This is a really nice page. And you might want to do this with your book too. I've made a really tall page. Look at this. There's a giraffe here. It's really, really long. Whoa. I'll turn it like this for now. A mother giraffe was feeding her son on the lush green leaves high up in the trees. As Bernard watched, his stomach rumbled loudly. The giraffe stopped and stared right at him. After a short time, the mother pulled down a huge branch of juicy green leaves, and she dragged it in front of Bernard. What a kind giraffe this giraffe is. As Bernard gobbled the food, the giraffe told him a story. She said, "Many years ago, the valley was dry and we were desperate for water. Out of nowhere, a camel appeared and saved our lives." And when Bernard's stomach was full, the giraffe smiled and walked away. Bernard felt strong again. She'd helped him. How kind. She wasn't like the crab, was she? She helped him for no reason. She didn't ask her anything in return. "Now, where's my memory?" he said. He raised his trunk and sniffed the air. He opened his ears to hear the wind. He felt the earth with his big feet. And with a stomach full of food, Bernard picked up speed. Soon he reached the edge of the valley where the hills rose high. He could see his family in the distance. He trumpeted loudly and he ran down to them. That night, as the rain poured down, Bernard told his family about the kindness the giraffe had shown him. And the next day, the elephants, warmed in the morning light, they spotted something in the distance. An orphan zebra was surrounded by a pride of hungry lions. The elephants looked at Bernard and remembered the lesson the giraffe had taught them. They knew exactly what to do. Together, they ran towards the lion, stamping their feet, sounding their trumpets, and flapping their ears. The lions quickly ran away, and the baby zebra was safe. And with that, the memory of elephants made their way back into the valley. And the zebra came too. So this story was all about being kind, because it's really, really nice to be kind. Now, thank you for tuning in for that story. We're going to finish with the answers to our amazing quiz, Guess My Simile. Are we ready to see the answers to Guess My Simile? All right, you'll need your books. You'll need to go back to your page where you put your answers, and you'll need to have a think about if you were right, and we'll give them a big tick if you've got them right. If you got them wrong, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter at all. Okay, here we go then. Let's go through and I will read them out along the way to give you some help. Okay, so question number 1. She loved visiting the lake high up in the mountains, whose water was as clear as crystal. It was as clear as crystal, because crystal is extremely clear. Answer number 1, crystal. Let's continue. Number 2. Her voice was as smooth as, what is the smoothest thing around? It is silk. As smooth as silk. That is a superlative. How fantastic. Smooth as silk. If you've got 2 right, give yourself 2 big ticks. Very good, everyone. Let's go to number 3. It's no use trying to change his mind. That man is as stubborn as a... Ooh, what is really stubborn? It will not change its mind, even if you try your hardest to persuade it. It is a mule. M-U-L-E, or I will accept donkey. M-U-L-E, as stubborn as a mule. Well done, everybody. Number 4. He knew something was wrong when he found his friend shaking like a... Ooh, what shakes a lot all the time? Well, I will tell you, the answer is a leaf. He was shaking like a leaf. Really, really good. Let's continue. Number 5. This shawl is made from very fine material. It's as light as... What is the lightest thing you can imagine? Well, the lightest thing that I had in my mind was it's as light as a feather. Very good. Now, some people are saying it's as light as air. Air is lighter than a feather. Yes, but you can see that there is it says here in the description, as light as a. So you can see that it tells you that it's definitely not air, because it has an A right there in the text. Just there, that A gives you the clue that it's not air. Okay, Let's continue. Number six. Her grandmother's chocolate cake was as sweet as. What is the sweetest thing that you can imagine? It was as sweet as honey. Honey is the sweetest thing that I was imagining. It is a superlative. Let's continue. You're doing really well. Number 7. You can trust him. He's as straight as an. Ooh, what is really, really straight? It has to be straight. If it's not straight, it doesn't work. The superlative is he's as straight as an. And let's go to it. He's as straight as an arrow. Very good. So have a quick look. See how you did out of your first 7. I'm going to put some ticks. You might want to do the same too. You're doing a really good job. Now, don't forget, there are many answers to these questions. This is just a bit of fun to try and read my mind. Okay, here we go. Let's continue. I'm just going to turn to my other answers over here so I can fill them in. You're doing a really good job, everybody. Let's continue with my second section of Guess My Simile. Let's have a look. Here we go. Number 8. Number 8. The bird took his first flight. He was as brave as a what? What is the bravest thing? Well, in my mind, he was as brave as a lion, the king of the jungle. As brave as a lion. That little bird jumping out of the nest, tweet, 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 for the first time, as brave as a lion. Tells me exactly how brave he was. Let's continue. Number 9. Don't trust his words. He's cunning like a what? What is cunning? Cunning means sneaky, breaking the rules, not always telling the truth. Well, cunning like a fox. Because a fox stays asleep all day. And when it's nighttime, it sneaks around the farm trying to find chickens, trying to find goats and things to hunt. Cunning like a fox. Very good. Number 10. You're doing a really good job. Keep with me. Number 10. The expression on her face was as cold as. What is the coldest thing? The coldest thing. It was as cold as ice. As cold as ice. It isn't the coldest thing in the world, you're right. There are other cold things, but this is the one that I had. I will also accept if you put as cold as Pluto or as cold as space. Those 3 I will accept as a right answer for this one. So give yourself a tick if you got that right. Let's go back to number 11, everybody. My wife is as busy as a something in the mornings. As busy as a bee. As we know, bees are really busy, flying around, collecting nectar, flying back to the hive, turning it into honey, looking after the queen, as busy as a bee. Very good indeed. I hope you all got this one correct. Next one. The teacher's face was red like a. This is a funny one. The teacher was really angry. Oh, he spilled a cup of coffee all over his trousers. His face was red like a. Like a what? Like a tomato. Red like a tomato. How funny. That's a very red face, isn't it? Let's continue. Number 13. The teacher's face, the burglar was quiet like a. The burglar was quiet like a what? Well, the burglar was quiet like a mouse. Mice are very, very quiet indeed. Really, 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 yes. Now, for the final one, number 14, here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to have a quick one. My hair is curly. As curly as what? What is curly as what? I've got curly hair, look. It's as curly as what is number 14. Have a think about it. I'll give you 10 seconds to write an answer. As curly as what? Curly as what? This is a really hard one. I doubt you'll get this one. It's a very, very tricky one. Very, very tricky indeed. I'll give you 10 more seconds if you want. I can see some people are still writing. Okay. Number 14, Curly likes spaghetti. Ha ha ha! See if you got it right. Curly likes spaghetti. Really, really cool. Okay, so give yourself a mark out of 14. Here they are. See how you did. You did 14 really well. If you got 0, also really doesn't matter. There are many, many answers to these questions. Now, before we finish up for the day, there's a few things that I would like to say to you before we go. The first thing is to say thank you. Thank you for coming. It's been amazing to have you all here. We've got schools all over the world. Today we have about 50,000 children here. This is absolutely amazing. So number 1, thank you for coming. Number 2, thank you for working so hard on writing your book, because I really want you to become published authors. And remember, you cannot give up. Even if it gets too tough, it gets a bit tricky, it's taking longer. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter if it takes you a whole year. I want you to write and finish that book and publish it so you can say, I'm a published author. The third thing to say is, when you finish school today and when you're about to leave, I want you to say thank you to your teacher. When you go out the door and say, thank you, miss, thank you, sir, thank you, Mr. Johnson, thank you, Mrs. Bellamy, thank you to your teacher. Your teacher's working so hard to make education fun for you. And teachers, I'm a teacher myself, so thank you for coming along if you're out there listening. And the last thing to say is, I will be here next week at exactly the same time with another fun lesson. So thank you for coming along, everybody. It's been amazing to have you all here, and we will see you next week at the same time for another live lesson. This is Gavin McCormack, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye, everybody.
It's Richard Mills from Upschool here. For more amazing free lessons like this one, create a free account at upschool.co, and we can't wait to see you on our platform.